Hi, what's up, Lola? How are you?
I'm good.
Very well.
How are you?
What's this thing you have on your neck?
Okay, so in case you didn't know earlier, it's a scarf.
Okay.
Yes, and it's a bit retro. This particular fabric is called flannel. It's soft to the touch, and it also keeps you nice and warm.
You know how I feel looking at you. It reminds me of this girl's gid.
Whatever.
As if
Like,
we're going for
well-
a parade, Boy Scout guest guide, and kind of stuff.
At least we did that. What did you do? At least we did that. What did you do?
I read books.
See?
Okay, what do you have for us?
So today we're going to talk about something that we think about and we don't necessarily always talk about it. And so today we'll talk about fear. Specifically fear as an act of manipulation. How are things done to make you afraid? So that's pretty much
Okay, so
what
basically
we're
for me,
talking about. Yep.
hello viewers, if you're just joining us or if you're watching, we have another guest in the house today. And she is a marketing expert.
Yay!
A brand and marketing expert is the person we have in the house.
Woohoo! Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome,
welcome.
Keren.
Woohoo! Welcome,
Hi, Keren. How are you?
Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi.
Hi, Lola.
Hi, Keren.
Thank you. I was just looking at myself like, okay, who is he actually introducing? Because I wasn't very sure if I am that expert. But
You need to check her out.
thank
Okay.
you.
You need to check her out.
Thank you for the intro.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. And
better.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Keren.
Thank you. I'm good.
I'd ask you, have you ever been afraid?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase. Has anyone ever got you scared?
If you say anyone got me scared, I don't think so. But having fear as an emotion is something that I have.
Okay.
There are some things I still am afraid of. I mean, some things I'm afraid to do. But I'm working on that. I mean, but that somebody will get me afraid.
You want to become our president?
I don't think so. No,
You want to be? Please, we'll support you.
not necessarily. I mean, there's some personal goals that you would want to achieve, but then again, they seem far away a bit. I mean, or sometimes seem insurmountable. But then you find a way to always be grounded and find a way around it. So
Okay, yeah. So my point is actually, has someone been able to scare you to do something?
I would say I don't think so, because I'm very self-aware. I am very self-aware, so it's very hard or it's very difficult for anyone to make me do what I don't want to do.
So you mean if I threaten now, I say, Keren, if you don't do this, I'm going to pull out of this project. For instance, if I were to have a project with you, and then I say, Keren, you either do this or I pull out of this contract. I'm no longer signing. And then I put you under duress to get you to act.
Don't try yourself.
Okay, I think that in that kind of situation, there's probably going to be a communication, a dialogue. So what's the issue? What are your issues? What are you
I just
having?
want to stampede you to signing a document, a deal that I see that I'm in the advantage. I'm in the advantageous position,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And if I hurry you to sign up on
Would
it,
you-
I am going to get. I'm going to be on the positive side,
I wouldn't.
and then I push up. I keep pestering you until you sign.
I don't think so. I don't think so. It might
So-
take a while.
So
So
But-
basically, what we are discussing
More like harassment thing.
is that we're looking at fear as an act of manipulation,
That's
and
right.
this happens
All the time.
every time of our
Absolutely,
life,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So Lola,
there are so many,
Tell us something.
and that's so true, because there are so many ways you can look at it, and we can talk about various ways in which we see this playing out. So let's zoom out a bit and talk about
Right.
the national context. So before independence, we had colonial powers in place, and there were a lot of things they did to subjugate the populace, to stifle that spirit of seeking for independence.
Right.
Any sign of any sign of rebellion or any sign of trying to break out from that stronghold that they had imposed was met with stiff resistance.
Okay.
So I'll give some examples. I know there was the Democratic Republic of Congo. They had this king then, Leopold.
Yeah.
And what he did then was to subjugate the masses such that any form of resistance was met with violent resistance from his forces.
Okay.
And there are numerous examples. I mean, we talk about pre-independence
But it's still
Africa.
happening. It's still happening even
Oh
to
yes,
date, right?
up to
Okay,
date,
oh,
even up to date
okay,
in the political
can I
context.
ask if
Yes.
why? I mean,
It's
why would
simple.
anyone want to use fear to manipulate any other person? That would be my question. Like, why do you want to do that?
Why would you want to do that? Because I think, first of all, I would say because when you're afraid, you won't take action. And when you don't take action, you cannot resist whatever it is they are throwing your way. That should be the primary motivation.
Well, I think for me it would be for anyone to want to manipulate another person. I think it's a form of control.
Yeah.
It's a form of control. It's a form of ego. It's a form of personal gain. That is why you would want to manipulate another person or have control over another person.
True. Because
If you
control
are
is
sure of who you
the
are,
thing.
if you know
Yeah.
who you are, I don't see why you want to control another human being.
Yeah, I think that for yes, you wouldn't want to control. I think my argument today would be on the positive side, which is that using fear as a means to control can be positive. Okay,
Really?
but
In
but
what
let's
way?
yes, yeah, it can be positive.
In
but
what way?
let's keep that aside.
Okay.
But
We're coming back to it though.
Yes, well, we're gonna get back.
Definitely coming
We'll
back.
get
Yes,
back to
we're
it.
going to get back to it.
Right.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think that the first thing for me is that fear as an act of manipulation is a psychological instrument used to get people to comply with what you want, and which is the point that Lola was actually raising, right? And it happens in all sphere.
Yeah.
Culturally, he's just spoken about the historical. She's just spoken about the historical
I was wondering. I was like,
past. But I would share with you that culturally it is there. Okay? For instance, when you look at our culture as a people, we're Africans, right? When you look at our culture as Africans, you realize that there is fear. And what I'm going to try to do is to pinpoint the fears.
Okay.
We have spiritual superstitions.
yeah.
Okay.
For
Quite a
instance,
lot, actually.
they will
Yes.
tell you, oh, a ritual is going to take place. You must not be outside your house between XYZ time
Timing.
to ABC time, right?
Okay.
In Lagos, for
Yeah,
instance, you have the
specific
Oro.
gender.
Okay,
Yes.
the Oro
Okay,
Festival,
okay.
and then they tell you, and everybody is scared,
Right.
and everybody goes into their abode in no time.
Right.
That is fear as an act of manipulation to get people to do what you want. Obviously, there may not be any spiritual
Connotation to it.
effects,
Okay.
but they just put that thing in your mind at the end of the day. But you have to comply because they don't want anyone outside.
And, it's
And I'll give you an
effective though.
instance. You
It's
know,
quite effective.
I was born in the upper country.
Okay.
And a village, and grew up. My early years were done there, and I recall that there's masquerade. There are several festivals,
Right.
and the first thing is they say, oh, women are not supposed to be out at so time to so time, right?
Okay.
But men can be out.
Right.
So I grew up seeing my mom during that period say, oh, women are not supposed to be outside. They run into the house, and as a little kid, I'll be outside. Guess what? I'll be screaming like the masquerade.
Oh, no way.
I'll be screaming.
No way.
I'll be screaming like a masquerade.
Right.
And I do think that the women locked in their houses will think that, oh,
There's
you
actually
actually have
masquerade
masquerades
outside.
coming out.
Oh.
Or not to...
It's
maybe
Emmanuel that is screaming.
Emmanuel is just out there screaming like a masquerade,
Oh, I see.
and people are saying, "Oh, there's one spiritual cleansing going
Going
on."
on.
You understand?
Yes, it's an
So
act of manipulation.
these are all acts of manipulation. We also have it at the workplace,
Right.
where the bosses will threaten to say, if you don't do ABC, you'll be fired. You'll be issued a query.
Okay,
and stuff like that, right?
Is it okay for me to interject? So,
Yes.
if we're going by the dictionary meaning of manipulation,
Yes.
it says is a coercive or an unethical way of asking someone to do something for personal gain. So there are two words here, or three, if I may. There's coercive, there's unethical, and then there's personal gain. So all I'm trying to say is, for any individual to want to manipulate another person, you're looking for something you're supposed to gain at the end of
Definitely,
the day.
it's an act of
Yes,
manipulation
yes,
to
of
get gain, for you to be on the.
And we're talking of gaining control. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for you to be in control. So there's something you're actually looking for, and you use that to manipulate people. Yes,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
Another word there is the coercive,
Of course. Okay.
and the other word is unethical.
Unethical. Right.
I'm taking this seriously because they introduced me as a marketing expert.
Okay.
In what we do, there are things that are ethical
Okay.
and things that are unethical.
Okay.
So if you're doing things that is unethical
Yeah.
to get something out of somebody else, how is that any good to the other person or even to yourself?
Right? Yeah. I
That's
think
food
the,
for
the,
thought.
the key thing there
Yeah.
for me is that something is done. Whether it is ethical, nobody is saying that it is an ethical way of doing things.
Right.
But what we're just basically trying to establish here is that you just want something done. And which is the point I'm trying to make when I said that there is the positive aspect of this, even if it is unethical,
Right.
right? But it's positive, and we're going to get there.
Oh,
right?
I'm waiting.
We're going to get there. So,
I'm actually
know,
so
waiting.
this
Just
happens.
waiting
So
for this
people
part.
manipulate
Yes.
people on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Even in religion, it
Yes.
is there.
Yes.
Okay? People will tell you they are seeing vision for you. If you don't do ABC before 1, 2, 3 days, you are likely going to have 1, 2, ABC. You are likely going to have repercussions.
Right.
And
Yes.
sometimes just they don't do it and let the 3 days pass. Nothing would happen.
Exactly.
And most times it's the manipulation, because again, sometimes we've commercialized
Oh yes.
we've commercialized religion, that because people are trying to get something from you,
Yes.
they would paint one terrible scenario, and you instantly would
You
begin
believe
to
it.
Yeah, you believe it. You begin to fidget, and then they use that to manipulate you,
Right.
and then
So even
begin to
beyond
curry
religion,
favor, and
yeah.
then get financial gains and all of that from you. So it happens. So we're just trying to pinpoint areas and places where some of this is
Okay,
happening.
so
Yeah.
if I would speak to the religious part of things,
Yeah.
I understand people would use religion as a manipulation. But again, I will still come back to my personal self because, like I said, it's important for every individual to know themselves,
Absolutely.
know who you are, and then know whose you are.
Okay.
So everybody have access to God. I go to church, I'm a Christian. But I don't think any pastor is going to say anything to me that I will swallow hook, line, and sinker. I wouldn't do
But
that.
not everybody is you.
Exactly my point. So my point today will be for people to know themselves. Know who you are. Know whose you are. Also find knowledge for yourself. You can seek God for yourself.
Absolutely.
You don't need an
In fact,
intermediary.
everyone has access to
Exactly.
that anyway. Yeah.
Yes, God has given gifts to all men. But you don't literally need an intermediary to speak to God. So you don't then make a man a God.
Absolutely.
So
So
to
that's
your
my
point.
take on the religious
religious,
aspect. So,
but
And to
I'd
your
like to
point.
ask.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask you, Lola.
Yes.
She's just been able to say, know who you are, know whose you
you
are,
are.
Exactly.
and know yourself. Be
Speaking to
self-aware.
self-awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'd like to ask you,
Yeah.
when you are manipulated by your government,
Whoa.
how do you manage that?
Valid, and it's a question that affects each and every one of us because
Right.
I
we are
included,
all
because
subject
I'm
to
currently
Absolutely.
bleeding now.
absolutely.
exactly, and we all know that everyone is subject to government control.
Right.
Governments need to maintain control so that the resources of the country and everything around the country remains under their control.
Right.
And there are many ways this is done. I mean, you talk about stifling all sorts of uprising. We are all aware of the recent happenings in Kenya, for example, where things have now taken a different turn
Turn.
because the government expected compliance and they came up with this bill only to meet
Resistance.
stiff resistance.
Right.
But it's
Right?
usually
It's an
resolved,
act of-
though. And I appreciate the Gen
It's-
Zs and then the millennials who are championing the cause.
Yes, the
over
young
there.
people.
Because again,
really
if you look
stood
at
up
it,
for
if
their
you look
rights.
at it,
Yes.
maybe this answers the question I was trying to raise, which is that when your government
Governments,
uses
yes.
fear to manipulate you,
manipulate
how
you.
do you
But that's just one
handle
facet of it.
Yeah, I'm
Only
just
one,
saying. Yeah,
yes.
I'm just saying because again, at the end of the day, they've been able to achieve so much. So the government,
Yes.
the president, has been able to backtrack on some of the policies he was trying to introduce.
Right.
So
Yes.
thumbs up to the Kenya.
Yes.
I mean,
Kenya
our brothers and
cit-
sisters in
citizens
Kenya.
They decided not to give in to fear
Yeah,
of
and,
manipulation.
Exactly.
and condolences to a few lives that,
That
were
has
lost
been-
Yes.
in that place.
Okay.
May they
It's
rest
quite
in peace.
unfortunate,
Yes.
and we do not think that is something that should have happened in the
In the
first
first
place.
place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right?
For the greater good, they talk about government manipulation goes even beyond political affairs. It even goes as far as day-to-day affairs.
Yes.
For example, so governments understand that, let's say, for example, governments realize the need to have more people paying tax. So they come up with some policies to ensure that that continues to happen. It's also a form of manipulation because you're telling people how many children they should give birth to. We all know this has happened in quite a few countries. You tell people how much they are expected to work. You also make it such that everyone in the family is compelled to seek employment and not
Right.
necessarily do things for themselves. So all these two are forms of manipulation that governments put in place to ensure that the citizenry is not empowered enough to take some certain stands. So I'll give you another example. The fact that in our country, for example, if we say we want to have protests for whatever reason, we have a bad history with protests in this country because it
It's
starts one way
usually
and ends up in a
hijacked,
totally different
right.
way. And the government uses that as an excuse to say, you know what, you guys
You
shouldn't
cannot
protest.
protest.
Come, let's discuss. But guess
Right.
what? We've been discussing for like forever and we still have
And you don't have
these
the
things.
results.
We don't have results. So next thing we say protest, we see all the security apparatus being deployed. It's
So that
also
you're
a
not
form of
able to-
manipulation.
Let's-
Trying to keep people stifled.
Let's also look at, maybe we should also focus and check how fear as an act of manipulation is used in the office. Right? And good a thing we'll be having an HRO person.
Really? Okay. I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll be having an HRO person.
Can we tackle the person?
No.
Can we tackle them?
Don't
Sometimes
play
soon.
with your job.
Right?
Dear
Okay,
HR.
but again, it happens
Yes.
in the workplace
Yes.
where superiors manipulate their subordinates to get them to do either through transfer of aggression, manipulation because they want to meet certain KPIs, manipulation again because they don't have the requisite skill to deliver on
deliver.
certain jobs, and they mount pressure on their
On the
subordinates, get the job done, and take
the
the
glory.
same file and then take the glory at the end of the
Right.
day, because we cannot overlook that.
Yes.
If you're an HR person and you are watching this, please.
So, first and foremost, shout out to my boss because he's not on this table. Yay!
I think I kind of have an experience in that line. Even though at the time that I was experiencing it, I didn't know or think it was manipulation.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so I used to have a boss.
You care to share?
Of course,
Okay,
I mean,
so let's have it.
Break the
I mean,
table.
yeah. So I used to have a boss that there was nothing I did that I did right.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Everything I did wrong.
That can't be a good place to
Do you
be.
understand?
No,
So
no, no.
like every single
Mentally,
step I
yeah.
take, Toyin, you didn't do this right. Toyin, this is not right. Toyin, no, I'm like, okay, let's backtrack a bit. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
But at some point, it got to a point that I realized I couldn't win because obviously she's my superior.
Yeah.
She has that authority and power over me in the workplace. And since everything I did was wrong in her face or in her eye, at some point I had to leave the job.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I left the
Wow.
job because I cared more about my well-being.
Which is important.
It's very
Very,
important.
very
I
important.
care about how I feel when I'm going to the office.
Yes.
how I'm doing my job. And
Yes.
if I'm at work, everything I do is not done right, then there's a problem.
Speaking to what you were saying earlier about, knowing
Who you are.
self-awareness.
Exactly.
Yes.
So at some point I realized I can't win this battle. She's the superior. She's got other people on her side.
Right.
I'm just an employee.
Yeah.
So at some point I had to just resign.
Wow.
And then I left the job.
Wow.
If I'm, I just want to probe further, right?
Don't probe too further.
Where
So
there,
the person doesn't know that.
yeah. No. Okay, I fully understand. So my question is, were there people she was relating with smoothly during?
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So
okay.
how were they
Okay.
able to relate with her?
So she's the kind of person that she has a favorite
Right.
Okay.
in the office.
Yeah.
Right.
So there are people that are pals and stuff. I'm like a no man's. I really don't give a if it's allowed. I'm just me. I don't care if you like me or you don't.
Yeah.
It's okay, as long as I'm doing my job. That's
Delivering
it.
on your KPIs.
Oh,
Delivering on-
absolutely.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm doing my
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
I'm not lagging behind.
So you're not
in
interested in
anything.
sucking up to
Exact-
anyone
I
or
don't
being
kiss.
anyone's pet?
I don't kiss ass.
Right. Okay.
So maybe that's also part of the reasons why I wasn't in our good books.
Okay. So
But-
if I understand correctly, you're saying that some of the persons who were on our good books
Of course,
are because
they were sucking up to her.
okay.
So
So obviously the bottom line is she was having dominion.
Exactly. I don't know what that does. I don't know what that does to her, but I think it's also
it's the point we're
it's in
trying
line
to
with what
make.
we're saying.
Yeah,
exactly. I
it's-
think it's also a form of manipulation, because I think she just wants that control and that sense of power,
Exactly.
Pride.
that ego.
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
that
yeah.
ego that she
Feeding
just exactly.
his
So
or her
she just wants
ego,
that
right?
ego and all of that. So
And such a
she's-
person would deploy
So
fear.
when somebody that is not
Yeah.
succumbing to that, then you become a problem for her. Like,
Of course.
who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Every other person is sucking up to me, I'm not ready to suck up to you.
Yes.
So it's either
Exactly.
you suck up to me or you leave.
Or you leave.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So it was that. So at that
And I
point,
think that
then
people,
I had to leave.
yeah,
actually.
I think I've had, interestingly, I've had an experience like that, but I'm not going to go into details.
Okay.
Okay.
But I understand. And same with you. I have these, I won't call it I don't care, because
Right.
I would not suck up to
Okay,
you as
okay.
well. I'm just going to also concentrate
On
Do
what
your
you're
job.
supposed
Do my
to do.
Do
work.
your job. Yeah.
and get out,
Right.
Okay.
right? And it seemed like, I think at the point,
Yeah.
it became very obvious that we're going to be bad. I and another colleague was going to be bad influence, because no matter how you try to stifle
Right.
me,
You
I'm
were
going
now.
to-
You guys were resisting those.
yeah, I was
those
practically
overtures.
resisting.
Yeah.
I was resisting.
Okay.
And certain
Okay.
things were not right. And I think then at the office, for the very first time, we had to call for a managerial meeting.
Meeting.
Wow.
Where we opposed, we spoke about certain things that weren't
wow.
working well in
the office.
I think at that point, the person realized that whatever he or she was doing
Yeah.
wasn't going to work, because we're actually going, maybe I was beginning to embolden some other persons in
Okay.
the office
Right.
space and all
Yeah.
of that. And I had to excuse. So it was a mutual agreement.
Okay.
And we had a toast with a wine.
So everybody can part ways
to
and
end,
make
yeah, to
heaven.
end
To
the
end the-
contract.
Okay.
wow.
Right? So,
Okay.
yes, I think that's much of it, but I don't think that I was in the best frame of mind.
Mind that,
during
that's
that-
it.
that
It does
period.
affect you.
That is the effects. That is how
That's
far
what
that can
can
affect you.
affect,
Because sometimes
absolutely.
you ask yourself, you begin to ask yourself questions. Am I competent enough? So you
begin
have
to
that
doubt
doubt,
yourself.
you begin to
Yeah.
doubt yourself
Yeah,
and everything.
begin to
Yeah.
doubt
And
yourself.
immediately I was able to cross that. I think I was able to heal from that and then get myself back and even do exceedingly well
Right.
beyond what I was actually doing
Amazing.
before.
That's it.
Amazing.
Right, so that's it for me. I think that this whole conversation
Yes.
is to elaborate on that and to get people, especially our viewers, to
Right.
understand that there is fear, and people use fear as
As
an
an
act
act of
of
Manipulation,
and you
absolutely.
need to be aware
Where?
of this, right? And be able to properly guide yourself
Absolutely.
against it, and know when you are being manipulated,
Manipulated.
Yes.
and knowing how to take a strategic position
Yes.
to resist
And if you cannot
or
resist,
manage
have to
or
resist
flee,
Yes.
right?
in a case where you cannot resist,
Resist, flee,
You have to
I
flee.
mean-
right? Because
Absolutely.
because again, your well-being is also very
very key.
important, right?
Very
Yes.
key.
Yeah,
you
so,
know, like what you were talking
um,
about earlier, you had to just leave that
I
situation.
had to.
So
I had
sometimes you just
I
throw
had
in the
to.
towel and call it quits.
Knowing that I could do much more than that. That's why I was able to like, no, I can't take this any longer. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not all there is about me. So if somebody isn't okay with everything that I do, I mean, how can everything that
Yeah.
one person does is wrong?
Exactly.
And just to you
And then
alone.
it's just you having that issue. I mean,
Do you understand?
according
Others
to
don't have-
Others didn't have that issue.
I was talking about the advantages that comes with using fear.
I'm looking forward to
No,
it.
but there are, okay?
I'm looking forward
So
to
first,
it.
yes, advantages of using fear
Okay.
to control people.
Let me
For
not manipulate
instance-
you. Say it.
Basically, one for me is compliance in the workplace. Compliance. You know for sure that naturally humans do not want to comply
Right.
to things, to rules, to regulations. So, in as much as we're saying that fear as an act of manipulation in the workspace is not right, but it gets the job done. Again, for instance, you can say if you do this, these are the XYZ consequences that comes with it.
So I
So
wouldn't.
people would naturally comply with that rule. So that is an advantage.
So aren't there other ways to go about
I
that?
was
How?
just
Which
gonna say
other
that.
way? You tell me. Which
Promote.
other way? Which other way?
I was just going
Persuasion.
to.
For persuasion, as in how? Why is there rules? Why are there rules in organization?
There are rules so that you can persuade people to do the right
No.
thing.
No,
You don't have to use
No. The rules are basically if you flout it, there are repercussions.
Absolutely.
There are
It is
repercussions.
not just
and
that.
the idea behind it is to achieve compliance.
No,
Okay.
that is one way of looking
For
at it.
instance,
Rules
an
exist to
hold
maintain
on.
order.
Not just order. To maintain
not
what
just
is
about
compliance?
negative side effects.
What is compliance? What is compliance?
Complying
Compliance
with,
is
with-
order.
It's
Yes.
complying, yes.
No. Compliance
Yes.
is not is not just complying, please.
Right.
Okay.
Is order. It's to
okay,
maintain
okay.
order.
But
So if you
just
look
on
at
a
it from
lighter
this
note,
perspective, you realize that fear has its own advantage in as much as we try to say is unethical. It can be unethical, but again, if you look at it, it's also ethical, because if you leave people, they're going to do anything. They will even run amok.
Okay. If I may, I would think that for the workplace to maintain rules and regulation,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see it as a form of manipulation. Right?
You wouldn't call it.
I wouldn't call it manipulation.
But it is manipulation.
I don't know, but I don't want to think
It's
it is manipulation, because
Manipulation, but not quite.
But it is manipulation.
Well,
enforcing
Putting threat. Is it threat? I don't know if I can call it threat, but it's basically saying that if you do this, you are going to get this
you know that there are
as
rules.
repercussion.
as
Right.
repercussions, yeah.
Yeah, so that instills fear in you and
Okay.
guides you not to go in that
Again.
direction, because again, the repercussions are there
Yeah.
for you. So for me, it's advantageous when you use that to get what you want
in the workplace.
in the workplace.
workplace,
Secondly,
Okay.
chances are that when you give an instruction, people would either decline. You know, we have different temperaments.
Absolutely.
Some have laissez-faire attitude
Yeah.
towards executing projects
Okay.
or completing a task.
Yes.
So if you want people to act on time and deliver on your request or on the job, you can choose to use that to get them to do their work at the end of the day. So getting people to do their work promptly at the appropriate time For me,
So, but my question
it-
again is, must fear be used as
That's
a
what I'm
tactic?
thinking.
again, it depends on how you see it. It depends on how you look at it.
Do you have to make people afraid just to get them to
I
get
am not going to
stuff
come and start
done?
shouting at you.
So why then is fear compulsory? Why?
I can basically talk using a firm tone to you.
Okay.
And I'm not going to do that in the first instance. I'm not going to come and say, hey, where are you? No. There is a clear-cut KPI. First of all, it could be that you would even set, in most cases for me, I would allow you set deadlines.
Okay.
So if I give a task, I'd ask you, when can you finish? You're naturally going
When
to
can you
give
do
me a date.
time?
And most times, people will give you a date. And I'll hold you
To
to
that
that
date.
date.
Yeah.
So if you don't deliver on that time, we're going to have issues.
Okay.
Because I allowed you choose. And in most cases, I've learned not to overpromise and
And
underdeliver.
under-deliver.
I'm going to underpromise
And
and overdeliver.
Okay.
And so that's the trick for me. If you give me the room to choose a deadline, I'm definitely going to give you a further deadline. Right? That I know I can complete it. Even if I'm going to be able to complete it in 2 hours,
Right.
I'll tell you, give me 24 hours.
So you have.
And then I
time.
watch you react. If you tell me no, we cannot, maybe I might come and say, don't worry, in the next 6 hours, I'm going to do it.
Do it.
And then at the end of the day, in 2 hours, I finish the job, I send it to you. So you are surprised. So there is that wow effect that you get at the end of the day to say, oh, this guy is effective.
Right.
Again, I'm saying this because that is how to be a high performer in
At
the
the
office
job.
space.
Yeah.
People will say, oh, this guy is
But
right on time. But
that
again,
is-
it's psychological.
But that's one context. So again, you're talking in terms of performance, and you're also talking in terms of getting people to get things done.
Done.
Yes.
But that also suggests some form of micromanagement, although that's outside the scope of this topic. But the
Right.
point
How is it a
being that-
micromanagement?
Okay, fine. You're talking about getting
I'm just
things
managing
delivered.
expectation from
You are
me.
managing expectations.
Yeah.
But the point is, workers are expected to be self-regulating. But like I said, that's
But would they do that?
Do you
Would they
get-
do that?
Not everybody would.
it's
do
an
that.
They
expectation.
wouldn't.
It's an
Okay.
expectation.
Yeah. It's
It is an
just an
expectation.
expectation. It's
Right.
not the
So
reality.
it's not the reality.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
But
if
then
you need the reality, what do you do?
Enforcement
don't chase them with
Enforcement
faith.
of what?
of your rules and regulations.
We
So
have
I
it.
wouldn't want to agree on the term manipulation for that. If I may.
So what would you call it?
That's what I just said.
But you are
Enforcement.
instilling your rules and regulations carries one penalty and all that, and that instills fear on people
Well,
to want to comply.
but it's not manipulation in that sense.
How is it? Okay.
I'm just,
Let
Okay.
me. Let's.
I'm just
let's
trying
see.
to find another word.
Maybe it's the word
Yes,
manipulation.
because I want to believe that for you to be in the professional settings, there are some things that are a given. That are expectations for you to be in the work or to be in the workforce. So you're not supposed to be chased around for certain things.
But you end up
I
chasing
know,
people.
I know, I
Okay.
know, because everybody sometimes we are human beings. So human
Of
beings
course.
will always be human beings, right?
Yep.
But I would not want to
Word.
agree to the term manipulation at the workplace in terms of enforcing rules and regulation of the workplace. I wouldn't want to use the term manipulation for that. Not that manipulation cannot happen at work between subordinates and superiors. It can happen. Even between employees, it can happen.
Okay.
But I don't want us to use, or I wouldn't use the word manipulation for you to obey
No,
the
nobody
rules.
is saying. Yeah, I know we're getting. I know we're all flowing, but at the point is the term of manipulation is for the
Manipulation.
purpose of this discourse, right?
Right.
Well, because however you look at it, it is
It's manipulation.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but in the workplace, they won't see it as manipulation.
As manipulation. Okay.
But when you dig down, you realize it's manipulation. And I'll give you another
Example.
instance.
Okay.
Reinforcement of authority. In a situation where you find yourself in a team and you have people who are flouting, who don't even respect you.
Yeah.
They don't want to. For instance, you are all pairs, right? And then the heavens smiled at you. You're promoted. You now become the manager to that
Of
team
your peers.
member,
Okay.
your peers, what happens? Chances are they're like, is it not scary? Come on, man.
For some
we go
people.
to lunch together at the canteen.
For
We
some.
eat. We
But
eat.
there's also the recognition that Keren's status has changed.
But
Exactly.
not in all cases, because some persons are going to, when you are trying to enforce rules or ensure that things are done in the appropriate way, chances are that you will get resistance.
But that's
From
more
your
of the
course.
exception than the rule.
No, but it does happen.
No, fine. it
How
does,
how
but-
do you reinforce your stand and the team? How do you have to be very vocal. You have to be
So-
out there. You have to instill. You have to make everybody know that you are in charge.
So in a situation like that, if we're all peers and then somebody gets promoted,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then it looks as if we still look at that person as he's still one of us, right? In a situation like that, it's a communication thing that will happen, so that this person understands or explains to others that okay,
Others.
we're friends when we are outside, perhaps, but when we get to work, the position that I'm holding takes precedence over our friendship. But as soon as we clock out of work, we are pals.
When-
But
Yeah,
not in
so-
all cases.
I should think that should be the best solution, so that nobody steps on anybody or somebody start feeling some type of way. So they just know that okay, this is Toyin at work. When is the other Toyin is the other Toyin.
Right,
So that way
but-
work is being done as when due and appropriately too. Because if you don't have that communication with them, somebody might just feel like, oh, it's Toyin, I can do this whenever.
Yeah.
But when you have that communication, say, okay, guys, this is it. I'm toying when we are outside. But when we are here between 9 and 5, I am the brand manager.
Yeah.
So let's get the
So that
job
understanding
done.
will be
Let's
there,
get the job
that-
done.
yes.
But when we clock out, we can all be toying and pals. So that way there are no glitches or clashes anywhere.
So would you,
So-
Lola? So would you say that the advantages are cool?
Well, while I agree that there are advantages, I wouldn't say they are necessarily cool. It depends on context, really.
Right.
Because there will be some instances where, yes, you need to deploy certain things to achieve
achieve.
positive results, which
Right.
is where you are coming from. But there will also be instances where that backfires. So I would say it's really context sensitive, and it depends on what situation is being applied at that particular point in time. You know?
So if you discourage defiance
Yes.
in the office space,
Yes.
that would be,
For me,
if you use it as a way to discourage
Manipulation.
deviance, then that is advantageous. So we cannot outrightly condemn,
manipulation.
yeah, even if it's
We won't-
unethical, right? Is my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but we don't need to get unethical. Is my point. There are other ways.
Manipulation.
So
Persuasive ways.
what do we do? So give us persuasive ways that can be used instead of this.
So that's the word. So I will use that word persuasive
Yeah.
instead of manipulation
Okay.
in terms of getting the positive out.
Which is what I
of
was thinking of as
manipulation now. So if the only positive that can come out of manipulation for me is when the manipulator, right, is trying to persuade the manipulatee
Right.
to do something
Right.
that will favor them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way you have done manipulation in a good way because you're going to get a positive outcome both for you and for the other
For the
person.
other person.
That's the only way I
Well,
would see.
sounds fair enough to me.
That's the only
Unless-
way I would see manipulation as being good. So if, for instance, now I have a friend who is probably just not very motivated in their career
Yeah.
or in their marital life or something, then I become persuasive or begin to ginger this person to say, you need to do this, so that we don't leave you behind, so that
Right.
everybody can, so that person then picks up. If there are ways I can say, oh, if you don't do this to me, I go fashion you, don't go be my friend again, that kind of level.
Let's again look at relationship dynamics. Fear at play.
Whoa.
That one is
You know, this is the part that I will come for you, because the truth of the matter is it happens because we've largely operated a patriarchal society. So that fear has been used as a means of subjugating the female members of the population.
Right.
Tell them they can't do certain things. Tell them they are beneath certain people. Tell them that they are not expected to achieve certain things. So that already is a form of manipulation, because you're telling them, if you dare to step outside these boundaries I've created for you, you're giving them room to be sort of equal to you, and you don't want that. So they are manipulated by fear to thinking that it's wrong to even aspire to those kinds of things. And this always plays out in relationship dynamics, because many things can be deployed to enforce that. Violence could be used, for example, of psychological manipulation, what we like to think of as gaslighting, you know, telling them,
Flattery and all that, just to get
exactly.
something.
Even religious manipulation, telling them that they are supposed to perform certain roles as women.
Mm.
So all these things are forms of manipulation that bring people into a certain box in relationships, and that happens more because of the patriarchal society that we've created. So we can choose to move forward from that and say, okay, let's engage in practices that create inclusiveness for everyone, regardless of gender. Let's even scrap the idea of gender roles, because that already is a form of manipulation. It is a form of it is a form of manipulation.
No.
I mean, it is a form of manipulation, because you're telling me I'm expected to do certain things. He's already telling me that I can't do other things.
There are traditional rules. There are traditional rules. Lola,
Mr.
please.
Emmanuel,
Lola,
you really
please.
want us to go there?
In this one, I think I'm
Lola,
a bit conflicted.
Lola, please tell me. There are traditional rules, okay? You can't ask Emmanuel to come and give birth.
No, that's not a rule. You don't
That's
get me
like a
wrong.
natural thing.
That I'm talking of rules, not biological
Okay,
functions. They are two different
Lola,
things. They are two different
I
things.
hope you pay our bills when we step out.
Again, like I said.
I hope you pay our bills on our next outing.
So-
You're on camera.
That's not a problem, is there?
So
Is
it
that
depends.
No. Let
We'll
her
take it
answer.
offline.
Let her answer.
I don't think that should be a problem.
Oh, you don't say anything.
We will take it offline.
I will take it offline. Okay, so gentlemen.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
but I think that the point is
Yes.
that I'm not trying to encourage
Manipulation.
but again, I'm just throwing lights that if the chips are down, right? If push comes to shove, is that how we say?
Yes.
yes.
You can use certain strategy. I'd rather see it as a strategy for
Damn.
achieving
Your goal.
your goal, which is the definition.
Right.
That
It's
we
a
try
strategy,
to-
but it's not necessarily
Okay, right?
an ethical strategy.
So you can do what you want to do. What you can do to get. You call it unethical, but the goal might be positive.
Right.
At the end of the day, it could be that you are winning, and you do.
So
See,
it's a case of
let me tell
the end
you.
justifies the
You
means.
use sometimes if you are on a negotiating table for your organization, for instance, and you're expected to do this, are you going to decline and say no?
It depends.
On what, please?
It depends.
Are you going to decline?
It depends.
If you are
If-
trying to coerce
I'm going to be political.
the other partners to sign the deal that you think is beneficial to your organization, what would
No,
you
of course,
do?
by default, you would say, I need to do things in the interest of the organization. That's
You will
the
say you
default.
do things, but
Yes.
again, you are just coercing people,
Right.
and you're putting fear.
But
And
you will
even in
not use the
marketing,
word-
and even in marketing,
It's not coercing, that's persuasion.
Exactly,
It's a
that's
different
the
even in
word.
that is
It's
not.
persuasion.
It is not
No
persuasion, and
coercion.
even in marketing,
Because in
you
negotiation, you don't
even in
make
marketing
people
you use
afraid,
that.
right?
Your fear of missing out when
Well,
running campaigns is what?
You're talking
It's
FOMO.
fear.
It's-
As an act of manipulation,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
when you tell,
marketers are manipulators, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
yes, they are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They
I
are.
mean, to get the
Marketing-
job done,
Yes.
you would have to get into people's psyche
and then get them to
and get
act.
them to act.
Even how you
Okay.
merchandise your products.
It is.
It's all about.
No
it's all
wonder some people
manipulation.
are always trying to hack me.
So there is
Unlock your
hack,
code now.
right? So basically, that's the point. I think that manipulation, fear as an act of manipulation, though unethical, can be advantageous. It depends on how you look at it. And while I'm not encouraging it, the essence of this conversation is basically to shed light on it, and it's for awareness purposes,
Right.
and so that people can understand that this actually happen
Happens.
around them, right? So I think that it's neither here or there. I will stand in the middle. You know, I'd rather stand in the middle, and for me, yeah,
Okay.
it's just what it is.
So I'm not in the middle. I'm clearly saying that rather than manipulate using fear, you can also use persuasive means. I know we've said that quite a few times. You ask.
So
what
when you are
persuasion
negotiating
is.
your
Yes.
next
You can
deal for your
persuade.
your
Yes.
organization, you are just using a
And my-
final terminology.
It's not just final terminology. There is a science to it, but it's outside the scope of this conversation. So we can revisit it. But suffice it to say that it's not all positive.
Okay.
Right? There can be ways you can manipulate, but do it persuasively. After all, when you're toasting a baby, it's manipulation, but it's not negative. This is the point I'm
Right.
making. So we will take it from there. So,
Okay,
Keren,
Keren.
what are your thoughts?
Okay, so for me, it would be manipulation fear as an act of manipulation. I do not think that anyone should want to control another person. If you are sure of yourself, you know who you are, you don't need to control another human being to function. So that would be my stand. My stand will be, as a person, know yourself, so that you know when someone is trying to manipulate you, and also you also will not manipulate others. Pretty much just be self-aware and self-knowledge, so that you're not tossed around.
I agree with
fear.
you, sister.
So on this
Mr.
note,
Positive, over to you.
on this note, we wrap up this week's episode of the LAC podcast. I hope you do enjoy yourself. Don't forget,
Like,
share,
subscribe.
let us know what you think, and if you have
And give us
additional
comments.
information, comments on this,
Have you been
please
manipulated? Let
drop
us know.
it, let us find out. Okay. Till we come your way again next week, we'll say bye from all of us. Thank you.